All right, welcome everyone. Glad you could make it here. My name is Professor Levy. I've been teaching pre-calc for a long time now. Going on maybe, let's see here, 8 or so years. I've taught the class a dozen or two times. And I really like teaching this class. I really hope you enjoy it. We're not in an ideal situation here, to say the least, given, being remote and online and everything. However, I do think I can still provide you with a pretty good experience and a very similar experience to being in person. The main difference is in person, I try really hard to stay on top of students and make sure they're keeping up with material and giving them very regular feedback. And obviously taking attendance encourages people to stay on task. The big difference in the online setting is you have to do all those things yourself, right? You have to be self-motivated, and you have to, take the onus on yourself to watch videos and take notes and ask questions and get help. And so the experience can be very similar, and I can provide great support remotely, but the motivation does need to come from your end. And I know that can be particularly challenging for students who are sort of earlier in their academic career. So I'm going to try my best to sort of keep up with you and, check in regularly, see what you're doing with the homework, give you as much feedback as possible. But I do want to just be very upfront, which is the biggest downside to online learning, is the motivation needs to come from the student's end. What I'd like to just do in this intro session here is run through some of the, the syllabus type material, but also just make you very much aware of all the online resources and how the class is going to run. Before answering any questions. So we're not gonna do any math today. It's very much an intro type class, but it is really important that you do focus in and ask questions and let me know if there's anything I can do to clarify anything. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and run you through our Blackboard page, which will be where most things happen. I'm also just going to log on from my tablet real quick so I can keep track of what's going on and see what it looks like. Okay, so you should see my Blackboard page. If you're not familiar with Blackboard, this is the learning management system that Fitchburg State uses. And you access it by going to blackboard.fitchburgstate.edu. Once you log in there, you'll be able to find our course homepage, which looks like this. It's got the announcements that I sent out last week, etc. Most of the things you need are on the left-hand navigation page, right? So like announcements or the emails that I've been sending out. I sent this email out a couple times over the last few weeks, sort of specifying class structure. I'll go over that in a second. You can see the syllabus is located right here, which I'm going to open up and point out a few things about. But I'm going to sort of show you some of the other things in Blackboard first. The YouTube playlist where all course videos are located is right here on the left-hand side. You can open that up and, you should just probably bookmark this page. It's only got 2 videos in it right now, but over the next 2 weeks, I will be adding and recording and really beefing up this playlist. All of our homework is going to take place online via WebWork, and so the WebWork link is right here. And so this takes you to the WebWork page, which I will also show you shortly. Grade scope right here is where we submit our quizzes and tests, and so that's going to be going in right here. I'll show you that in a second. A lot of the information, though, is in course documents. And so I think the first thing I just sort of like to do before going over details is remind you, and it should be a reminder because I have sent this out in an email a couple times, of the general class structure, which is listed right here on my screen right now. What I've tried to do when I'm thinking about this online course is provide a method and an option that gives you as a student as much flexibility as possible, but also providing as much support as possible. So in my opinion, the ideal, sorry, I just noticed this is something wrong here. Anyway, the ideal situation would be to meet in person 3 times a week. I give you lots of feedback. We work through things together. You know, you can ask questions live. But in this remote format and these strange times and whatever, I understand that students' schedules aren't always solidified, and they're in flux, and things come up, etc. So what I've tried to do is I've recorded past lectures of my class, so live lectures where I'm teaching to a class that you can watch at your own leisure. If you want to watch it during our class time, you can absolutely do that. But it also gives students the option to watch it at night if you're working, or to rewatch material 2 or 3 times if you're having a hard time with the concept. And you know, again, basically just puts those lectures out there in a format where you can watch anytime you want. What I've done with our schedule is I've scheduled 2 or 3 lectures per week for you to watch. And since we have about 200 minutes of class time scheduled, I'm trying to keep the video watching well below that amount. And so if you go to our YouTube playlist, for example, and you start looking at this one, this hour and 15-minute video is split between 2 days, right? And so that's actually the length of one class period, 75 minutes. But what we're doing on that particular video, we're splitting it up between 2 class periods. And so I'm trying to reduce the amount that you're watching to certainly less than 200 minutes, maybe closer to like 100, 150 minutes, depending on the given week. The idea being that you should spend some time watching videos and taking notes and things, but then the other time, so the other class time is going to be spent in these type of sessions where I'm here talking to you face to face, and also times where we can take tests together, and where you can work on your quizzes and things like that at your own pace, right? So in other words, I'm trying to reduce the total amount of video time per week to allow additional time for questions, quizzes, homework, all kinds of other things. So the way it generally works is I have these lectures posted. You watch them at your own leisure. I'm going to assign homework from each section, and that homework is always going to be due on Wednesday nights. Let me go ahead and show you the homework site. So I mentioned before, you click on the left-hand side here, you go to web work, we click the link right here, and it takes us to our web work page. This also only has 2 things currently posted, but that'll also be developing over time over the next couple weeks. So the first thing that's due is the orientation homework set, which you can see is due next Tuesday night. But after that first orientation set, all homeworks are going to be due on Wednesday nights. So the first real homework set you can see is due next Wednesday at midnight. The way that these homework sets work, if you go into one, it lists all the homework problems, and this is one of the longer sets, just to be clear. So 19 problems isn't something you'll see in most sets. This happens to be a longer one because it actually encompasses 2 separate sections. But anyway, you can see all the homework problems be listed. You can see that you have unlimited attempts at each question, so you can try them as many times as you want to get them right. And the reason for that is these are really just practice, right? And so they're practice for you to practice the material on your own, at your own speed, take as much time as you want to get it right. The point of this is not for you to torture you or to get you to sort of quote unquote cheat on them by looking up answers. Like, you could look up answers for all these problems, but then when it comes to a quiz or a test, you're really going to be in trouble. So the point of these are, I played a lot of baseball growing up. I always think about these as like the practice before the game, right? No one ever goes into the game without practicing first. You have a whole week's worth of practice usually before you go into a game. And you would never hopefully go into a test without practice either. And so you get the practice as part of these homework problems. You'll notice when you go into one of the homework problems, it obviously sort of gives you a homework problem, asks you to enter the answer. Notice this button down here, very important button, email instructor. When you click that button and you write an email, I guess looks like I'm not listed as the instructor. Usually when you enter that button, it'll bring you to a page where you can then send me an email. And what that does is it'll link me directly to this question in your particular homework set, and that will allow me to help you more directly. It does look like I need to just edit that real quick after class, it looks like. Yeah, for some reason my email's not here. Is it? Anyway, I'll have to work on that after class. So that's sort of the general homework setup. I'd like to reiterate again that the point of homework is not to just do it as quickly as possible without sort of learning or obtaining any of the knowledge. You want to have sort of a separate notebook where you're writing down your answers to this stuff so that when it comes test time, you have some nice material to study from to prepare you for the test. The other thing is, as I go back to the syllabus here, we'll have weekly quizzes that are going to be submitted to Gradescope, and those quizzes are fully open notes. And so writing down your homework solutions are actually really nice ways to be successful in the quizzes, because the quizzes are going to look a lot like homework. And so if you have a quiz out in front of you, you can have your homework out as well and sort of help you with that quiz, right? So quizzes are fully open notes, and you can see that they're going to be just about weekly, as specified in the schedule. And I'll go through how to submit those in just a moment here. The actual class time, so this class time that we're meeting in right now, that is 3 times a week, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at 11, or 2, depending on which class you're in. That's used for your questions about the videos, the notes, the homework, or anything else, okay? And so not only will I be available during our class time for those questions, which is, again, you're welcome to come at 11 or 2 p.m., but I also have office hours at 12:30. So basically at 11, 12:30, and 2 p.m. on Tuesday, Thursdays, and Fridays, I will be available for any sort of pre-calculus related help. And I'm trying to keep those times like that as they are, because it'd be nice if we could all gather together for those times and answer, so I only have to answer questions once, for one thing, but also so you can help learn from each other, right? When someone asks a question, honestly, a lot of the times in person, that helps someone else in the class without really even realizing it. And we lose the benefit of that, those sort of communal questions, if we don't gather together to ask them. And so that's what I'm primarily hoping to use scheduled class time for, is what's called a flipped class approach, where you do a lot of the sort of thinking and lecturing and learning outside of class, but then we do gather 3 times a week to clarify things, to re-go over notes. I'm happy to go over notes a second time during class. You just have to ask. Okay, so that's what we're doing with this class time. I'm going to take attendance during class time just to see who's here and who isn't here, but it's not going to hurt your grade. Okay, so if you have work during this time, or something comes up, or your schedule changes, you do have the flexibility to work at your own pace. But if at all possible, and I really can't stress this enough, if you're available during one of those times, 11, 12:30, or 2, please try to log on to these sessions for help. You can see here, in my experience, most of the time, those sessions are not very long. People ask a few questions, maybe you go over some homework problems. And so they're usually like 10 to 30 minutes. So between, watching the videos and the lecture and scheduled class time and answering quizzes, you should basically fill up the 200 minutes per week. Can I answer any questions so far? I'm going to keep going in a second, but you can ask questions in general. And does anyone have anything they want to talk about right now?
Yeah, I had a question.
Sure.
So how do you log on to the web work page?
Yeah, so when you click on the link here and it takes you to web work, you log on using whatever gets you into Blackboard. So this is like my Blackboard username. This is my Blackboard password. So however you get into Blackboard will get you into here. And if you're having problems with that, it could be because you potentially added the class late, or that maybe you're not in the roster. So let me know if you're having.
I just got into it. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Yeah, if anyone in general, though, if you're having issues logging in, send me a message and I'll make sure that your information is listed correctly.
And I also have one more question.
Sure.
So this is for homework only, and then like when you do tests, like it's submitted on a different website?
Yeah. So let me go over that since you asked that question. So and let me also pull up the schedule. So when you go to our course documents page here, this has most of the things you need for the class. Okay, it's got the syllabus, which I've already showed you a little bit. It's got the course schedule. You can see the course schedule tells us like week by week what we should be doing each week. So you can see this is our first week. This is what we're doing right now. Right, it's a live class. But then tomorrow, what you should do sometime during the day is watch the first 50 minutes of the exponents and radicals video. Oops, I lost that. Where was I? right? And then on Monday or on Tuesday, excuse me, you should watch the last 30 minutes of that video, right? And then sometime during the rest of the week, there's a couple other videos to watch. And so I'm also kind of showing you how long these videos are for planning purposes. Early on, during these early sort of what I would call review sections, sometimes I fill up the class a little more, right? So that you can see that this is going to add up to 180 minutes, where I usually try to keep it less than that, where kind of further on in the course, it might be less. I do try to keep it less than 180 because we have 200 full minutes. But it really just depends, right? There's only like 150 on this particular week. And as the material gets harder and harder, I try to make the videos sort of shorter and shorter. The total amount to watch in that week, I mean. And so this schedule really sort of lays out what you should do on each class. And then the course notes, so you can see here, blank course notes, completed course notes. The blank course notes and the completed course notes are the things that I'm filling out in the video, right? So here's the blank course notes. Here's the first page of notes. You can see there's 100 pages of those notes. You should print these notes as soon as possible. If we were in person, I would usually hand you the first couple and then say, oh, you have a week to print them, right? We're obviously not in person, and I'm not going to like snail mail you the notes or anything. So there's 100 pages worth of notes. If you printed them out in the library at school, it would cost you about $3. And you can basically use these notes in lieu of a notebook. So instead of buying, a $5 notebook or whatever, you could just print these notes out, get a nice binder, something to keep them in. And those are our notes for the semester. And then if you notice, like on the first video, if I just start playing the first video, for example, I'm filling out those notes in the video, right? So exponents, radicals, there's that first page of notes that are right here being filled out. And so that's sort of the general idea. And this video is an actual class, right? So I was recording this during a real class. And so there'll be people there asking questions. There'll be times where I say, hey, give this one a try, and you can try it on your own. And so if you're really taking this seriously, if you're a mature student, then you can really get just kind of a normal class experience out of this. I do just want to warning. I gotta stop. I want to warn people one more time though. If you're like I was early in my college career, which was, I was a slacker, to be honest with you. Right? You tried to just get by as easy as you could. People are going to have trouble with this because you have to stay self-motivated. Now, if it was me later on in my career, I would recognize the value in this and how it's important to do. And so I just can't emphasize that enough. I could just imagine sort of people coming in from high school who have skated by and didn't really try too hard. And I feel like if you really do that in this online kind of format, you might end up being in trouble. I'm going to try hard to avoid that with you, but I can't say that enough. I know there's a question about how to submit quizzes, and I am getting there. So anyway, there are the course notes. Those are all the blank course notes though, right? So these are all the course notes that are blank. You can see that I'm filling them out in the video. So like if I skip ahead a little bit, here's part of the page being filled out. Some people like to just have the notes filled out already. And so that's what the completed notes page does. So this document is the exact same document as the one I just showed you, but it's already been filled out, right? So the exact same as this one, right? But instead of having a blank stuff, I've already written the notes right on the page. So here, all those problems worked out. They're not worked out on this one. And so depending on your background, I think you should probably start with the blank notes, watch the video, and fill them out as you go, just like a normal class, right? But there might be a section or two that you just need a quick review, or maybe you missed a day and you just want to print the notes out or whatever, or maybe you wrote something down wrong and you want to double check what that is. That's where the completed version comes in, and you can always just double check what should be on the page or in the notes, or you can check solutions and things like that. Okay, let me just pause again for questions. I'm going to get to the quiz thing in a second. Other questions first?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
So I just want to clarify about earlier with like the different times you said you were available. So like, let's say like for whatever reason I missed like the 11 o'clock class, I could just show up to the 2 o'clock and like still participate in that, or?
Yeah, that's exactly right. You can show up at the 2 o'clock class and it's going to be the same thing. 12:30 is a little bit different because those are just general office hours. So I might have other students from other classes in that session. But 11 and 2 are both going to be the same pre-calc session where I'm generally just answering questions and things like that. I do try to record those sessions like I'm doing right now and post them to YouTube. You know, if no one comes, then it won't be a session and there won't be anything to post. So, you know, the goal here is not to help people slack off and sort of like avoid coming to class. The point here is to give you as many options to get the help you need as possible. So I really just want to be clear. I'm not trying to help people like avoid class by posting things to YouTube. You really should try to stay up with things and come to class if you can. Those additional resources are just there if you need it. But anyway, back to your original question. Yes, 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock will be the same repeated class, so to speak. So you're welcome to come to either one.
All right.
Other thoughts before I keep going here?
I have a question. Do we need any textbook? None of that, right?
Yeah, so the textbook, there is a free textbook right here. You can see it's a PDF. You're welcome to download this PDF and use it. I don't reference this textbook very much. There's also a hard copy for sale in the bookstore if you want to buy that. It's like 20 bucks or something. So we're trying to keep the costs down by having this open source textbook. The thing that I like about the textbook is it provides additional content if you don't like the way I'm presenting something, right? So like if you don't like the way I'm talking about relations and functions, you can always come here and look at it. The other thing that I often do from here, and I'm just trying to get to one of the homework sections, is I often assign practice problems out of here. So here, for example, are a bunch of practice problems that I might assign. And the nice thing about the textbook is if you scroll right past the problems, the answers are there, right? So here are all the answers with written solutions for the previous problems. And so the textbook is not something that's required. You don't need a hard copy necessarily, but you might want to have it for extra help if you don't like the way I'm presenting something. Or when it comes test time, I usually say like, oh, here are some practice problems out of the book. And so you want to just be able to access those. Other thoughts before I keep going? Those are good questions. Thanks for bringing those up. All right, I'm going to keep going. Please do feel free to interrupt me or use the chat if you want to ask something. If we look at the schedule and the syllabus, we notice that I usually, in class, I usually do a quiz just about every class period or every other class period. The way that I'd like to approach this online is weekly quizzes. Now, the point of these quizzes, they're open notes, open textbook, open whatever. The point of these quizzes is for me to give you feedback on your written work, because a lot of the time you're just doing work online in your notebook and I don't see that work. And so these quizzes are just my way of seeing that you are keeping up with things and to give you feedback and help if you're not keeping up with them, right? And so you can see like quiz 1 is going to be due at the end of next Friday, right? Quiz 2 is going to be due the following Friday. And so basically any week we don't have a test, there's going to be a quiz due. The way those quizzes work is they're on Blackboard. If you go down to the bottom of the page here, you can see there's a folder that has quizzes and quiz solutions in there. Quiz 1 is right here. It's actually just a quiz about the syllabus. It's just ask questions about the syllabus to get you to read it. You would either print this page out, or you can just write the answers down on a blank piece of paper. Really doesn't matter. And then what you would do is you would take a picture of that with your phone, ideally using a scanning app, and you would upload it to gradescope.com. And you can see it says right here, upload it to gradescope.com. It also says it right here, upload to gradescope.com. It also says it on the actual schedule, right? So it shouldn't be any confusion about where that goes. What is Gradescope? Well, there's another link for that right in the side of the page here. If you want to know where Gradescope is, just click that Gradescope button. You should have gotten an invitation from me to join this website. I sent it out yesterday. I think I sent it out twice. I'm happy to send it again if you didn't get that. Here's our course, Fall 20 Math 1300, and here's the syllabus quiz for you to submit. So this is expecting you to submit a PDF of your assignment. For more help on how to do that, the very first video in our playlist is how to complete and submit quizzes, right? So there's a quick 5-minute video of me submitting a fake quiz just to give you an idea how to do that. But what this website is nice for is it takes all of your submissions, allows me to write on them, and also allows me to create rubrics to grade them with. And so in other words, it's a really nice way to give feedback for written work remotely. And so you'll see after I submit the first quiz, the way I'm able to give feedback. And basically any quiz or any test, anything that I'm grading by hand is going to be done through this website. Again, weekly quizzes, so they're due once a week. I believe I made them do it Sunday, 9/18, is that right? I had them do it Friday, actually, that's right. So at the end of the day on Fridays are when quizzes are going to be due. That's so I can grade them over the weekend, that's right. And then, again, you get them from Blackboard, completely open notes, right? There's no reason to not look at your notes on these. So the progression is like you come to class and you learn the material in lectures, you practice it online with online homework as many times as it takes, right? You show me you know how to do it on these quizzes with your notes, and then you show me you know how to do it without your notes on tests. That's sort of the progression of learning here. As far as tests are concerned, I usually hold 3 tests and a final in this class, and I would generally like to schedule them in person. And so they're on the schedule. Let me just go to the first one. So you can see like the first one, test 1 is going to be Friday 10/2. They're generally going to be on Fridays. And I would like to hold them during our class time. So either 11 o'clock or 2 o'clock, depending on what class you're in. The reason I'd like to have them in person is because I'd like to have sort of a controlled, quiet environment where you can focus, right? Not everyone has that at their house. I also like to be available for questions and just really control the situation more than I can if everyone's sitting behind a computer at their home. Having said that, I'm flexible with those. And so I know there's some people who may not be able or willing to come into campus. And if you're in that boat, just let me know and we'll make other remote arrangements. But for the most part, I would love for as many people as possible to come to campus for these tests. I'll reserve, a nice big room where we can spread out. And again, the purpose is just to be in the same place with me supporting you during that test, a nice quiet place rather than your house. Again, please do send me an email if you have any issues with coming to campus for that. Let's see here. What else do we need to talk about? That's sort of the general sort of class structure, right? So I've run through this, talked about how lectures are going to work, how class sessions are going to work. I've discussed homework, quizzes, and tests. And this is how your grade ends up being broken down. I put it down here somewhere. All right, so 40% exams, 20% will be homework, 15% will be attendance, and the final exam will count for 25. Let me pause here. I do have some more stuff to talk about, but I just want to pause for questions again. Things I can answer so far. Okay. The other thing you'll notice here are tutoring information. And so I don't think there's anything in this folder right now because I'm still waiting for the tutoring information to come out. But I did list the 2 ways you can get extra help here. So first of all, the main way you can and should get extra help is through me. Right? I'm making myself available not just 3 times a week, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, but I'm available at other times too. I can log on at night during the evenings before 10 p.m. say. I'm happy to pop on and help with work around then. I get up, around 6 or 7. I'm happy to pop on as early as 7 or 8 a.m. if you want. So anytime throughout the day, you're welcome to sort of send me a message for help. I have a document camera at home. I also have a tablet, both of which I can use to sort of write math. I can pull up homework problems and go through them together. I've got the notes, right? So I should be your primary resource for extra help. There are these other 2 ways to get extra help as well. The first is the Tutor Center. They will have online virtual appointments. Feel free to schedule them through that link, and I'll post some more information there as well. The other thing that's really nice that I usually try to do is schedule pre-calc specific tutors. So I hire math majors or other people who have taken this class before with me, who are really nice, great students, and they're available usually a couple times a week in the evenings for questions. This is especially important because homework is always going to be due Wednesday nights at midnight. And so I usually try to schedule 2 people Wednesday nights to work on homework. So keep in mind that it's going to be a few weeks before that gets actually tutors get hired. But keep in mind there will be additional tutors available when that happens. Let's see here. What else did I want to talk about? I will mention one other thing with respect to the playlist. So this is the playlist for this semester, right? You can see that it says Fall 2020 Math 1300 playlist. Well, I've taught this course a bunch of times before. And so if you go to my general YouTube channel and you look at all the playlists, you'll see a couple other Math 1300 playlists, right? So there's this one from last semester, and I think, oh, that's right, there's one, I haven't made a second playlist. Anyway, let's go into this one. This is the one from last spring, which not only has the course material, but it has question and answer sessions as well. So you can see, like, on this particular session on Tuesday, 3/31 last semester, I answered a bunch of questions related to trig of right triangles and arc length. So I just wanted to point out this playlist because it already has a bunch of potentially relevant and helpful information for you that you might want to check as you're working through things. I will generally try to upload things to our playlist, right? So this fall playlist, but just be aware that there is a second playlist of me already answering some questions that may be helpful for you as you're going along. I'm just trying to show you all the different potential resources that are available to you. I think, somewhat hesitant to say that's it, but I think those are all the things I wanted to cover as just sort of like a few action items, like, oh, what do I do now? Like, what are the first things I should do? And you might want to write these things down. You should, and maybe in this order, you should print out the course notes, right? So you should get this document, find a library, or if you have a printer at home, that's fine. It might take a lot of ink, but you need to print out 100 pages worth of notes. That needs to happen like today, hopefully. So you print out the notes. You should print out or at least download this schedule to follow along with, okay? And then tomorrow on Friday, or at least before next week, you should watch the first 50 minutes of the exponents video, right? So you should have the notes printed out. You should get cozy up with some popcorn. No, I'm just kidding. Get in a situation where you're ready to learn. Start this video up and watch the first 50 minutes, right? Then when we come and we meet next Tuesday, we'll come during the same class time. I'll see if anyone has any questions. I'll see if there are any homework problems you want to work on. But then that same day or sometime early next week, you would want to follow the schedule and you would want to watch the last 30 minutes of that video. Right? So you just start following along with this schedule, keeping up with homework, coming to the session and answering questions. Now, by the end of next week, you want to be able to submit your quiz. Okay, so I really try to follow along with this. That homework is not actually on the schedule, but maybe you should just note somewhere that homework is always, always, always due Wednesday nights at midnight. I think it probably goes without saying, but please be checking your email. That's sort of the other thing is I would love to stay in touch with everyone as much as possible. I'll be sending reminders. I'll be sending hints, all kinds of stuff, but you won't see that if you don't check your schedule. Speaking of which, does anyone have any suggestions about, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. I don't have any suggestions about ways we can stay in touch. Email is obviously one of them. I can email the class or use Blackboard. But to be perfectly honest with you, in my experience, students just don't check their email enough or don't stay engaged enough via email. Now, there are lots of systems out there, apps and whatever, that we could use to stay in touch, that you could use to message me, that we could use to like schedule appointments and things. And I'm just wondering if anyone has ones that are being used in other classes or that they're particularly familiar with and like that I could look into using here. I almost just chose one, but I kind of figured I would survey my classes first to see if there are ones that people preferred. They don't have a way that they like to stay in touch, and not like Snapchat or we're not going to all get on Snap together or something like that. I'm talking about some other kind of system we could all use to stay in touch. I don't have an idea about that.
A lot of my professors have been using Slack, so I think that would be a good option as well.
Okay, I've been using Slack with my own research as well, so I could think about a Slack thing. Are people familiar with Slack, or does anyone have another idea about something that they like using?
I used to play sports, and one app we use is Team Reach. So basically, you create a group code, and everybody just goes in, and you can like send messages, pictures, whatever, and everybody should get it. I think it's free.
Okay, so Slack, Team Reach, I'll look into those too. It would be cool if, I think Slack has like different channels. So if you had more than one class that was using it, you would have like a pre-calc one and I don't know, an English one and blah, blah, blah. But I'll look into both those options. It looks like someone wrote something in the chat. I had one last year called Remind. I'll look into that one as well. I'm just sort of thinking about a way that, because let's face it, I just know students aren't checking email a lot, and you also are going to get a ton of random emails, right? So it'd be nice just to have like something else that pops up on your phone that says like, oh, Professor Levy is reminding me that homework student night, or oh, is he available? Maybe I can just send him a quick message, like something like that. And it sounds like maybe some of these are good options to do that. I'm familiar with Slack. I will look into Team Reach and Remind. Does anyone have any other suggestions before I keep going? Okay, I will look into those and probably make a decision about that. But it would be nice to have some way just that you'll actually use. That's the most important thing, that people will actually use to stay in touch. All right, I think that's all I really had to say. Can I answer any questions?
I have a question. Do you know when the final exam period is? I mean, I don't know if it might change with like scheduling and stuff, but do you know like what it is?
Yeah, so that actually just recently came out.
Okay.
And I just edited this document this morning to reflect that actually. So you can see what I've tried to do with the class actually is leave the last week of classes for just full on review, like extending homework, answering questions from the beginning of the semester, et cetera, et cetera. And then I believe the exam period starts Thursday, 12/10, and it runs through the following week. So just opening up my calendar here, I think it's 12/10 through 12/18, I believe, is the final exam period. And then what we've been told is to use one of our regular class times during that period to do final exam. So you can see I've scheduled it for Thursday, 12/10. It'll take place during class time. So in this case, 11 a.m.
Okay. Thank you.
That thing is somewhat subject to change. I'm going to try not to change it, but to be perfectly honest, we have just received that information. So it's possible it would change again. Other thoughts or questions? All right, well, I do appreciate everyone coming. If you were confused at all, I'm going to post this video to that YouTube playlist that I just showed you so you can rewatch it, but I would really encourage you to reach out to me directly if you're not interested in coming to test in person, if you're confused about what to do, or if you have any homework questions or any material questions moving forward. And I hope to see everyone tomorrow, right? So tomorrow I'm going to come on at 11 a.m. Hopefully, maybe you've watched some of the video by then. If not, I'll just sort of check in with anyone and see if there are questions. And hope to see you tomorrow at 11. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.